Twins split in Houston, and we'll go back to Target Field with a chance to close this thing out at home with 2 wins. Welcome to the Locked On Twins postcast. I am Sam Ekstrom, pinch hitting for Luke Inman tonight. He emptied the clip doing the Vikings postcast. It was a bad Minnesota sports weekend until tonight. The Minnesota Twins salvaged it with a 6-2 win against the Houston Astros, and I was telling Brandon Warne, stress-free playoff baseball? What is this? The Twins cruise to victory, not really threatened in the late innings. So much to get into. Pablo Lopez's gem, Carlos Correa with a revenge game to remember, and plenty more to discuss on this postcast presented by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Make every moment more. Go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started today. Brandon, what do we discuss first? The Pablo Lopez 7-inning, no run ball gem, or do we talk about Carlos Correa's 3-hit, 1-walk, 3 RBI performance against his former team, punctuated by one of the great web gems you'll see to end the game?
I'm going with Pablo just because we haven't talked about him yet this series, because he hasn't pitched yet this series. So Correa, we get to talk about every single game he's had one play or another, mostly defensively, that have really, shown a difference between him and other players in the postseason. Today, though, I mean, you could go either way, honestly. I'm going with Pablo, but if you went with Carlos, I wouldn't browbeat you over it because literally they both just had tremendous games today.
Well, spoiler alert, we're going to talk about both. So let's talk about the pitcher. Let's talk about the winning pitcher, Pablo Lopez. He goes 7 strong, over 100 pitches, no runs allowed, 6 hits. Only in trouble maybe in 1 inning. The 4th inning got a little bit dicey. Runners on the corners, I believe, and he struck a guy out. But went to the mound with a lead in the 1st inning. That's helpful. Had a 3-run lead in the 2nd inning. That's helpful. And that's a guy, Brandon, that you like having on the mound with a lead.
Yeah, and he came out throwing darts. I mean, I'm looking at his velo numbers here, an average of 1 mile per hour above his average on fastball, almost 2 miles per hour on his changeup, almost 2 miles per hour on his sweeper. So he came out amped and jacked up, and I think you're onto something there. Coming in with a lead like that and knowing that the second your feet hit that mound for the first time, you're in control. You are pitching with a lead. You can pitch the way you want to pitch. I think that's huge. But yeah, with Pablo and when he's at his best, I mean, there's not many better. And we've seen some guys, we saw Clayton Kershaw not get out of the 1st inning. So sometimes guys who are better just don't pitch better. But honestly, you have to rave about Pablo to this point. 2 postseason appearances for the Twins so far. But yeah, the velo is what really, really struck me. And 5 swings and misses on his changeup. Usually it's the sweeper that's getting him the swings and misses. Changeup was just dazzling tonight.
So his line now through 2 postseason starts, 12 2/3 innings, 1 run allowed in the 6th inning of the wild card game 1. This is the guy you might have on the mound in game 5 of this series. If there is a game 5, Twins hope they can close this baby out at home. They win it 6-2. I love listening to Przinsky and Wainwright just talk about pitching because they both have different perspectives on pitching. Obviously, Przinsky, the catcher, Wainwright, the World Series winning pitcher. But just hearing them talk about pitch sequencing and highlighting how he's using every part of the plate, and he talked about this too in his in-game interview. Really getting creative with these sequences and keeping these good Astros hitters off balance.
Well, and didn't I see he was going to go to med school and like tested into med school at 16 and his parents are doctors. So, I mean, it's obvious that he's a very sharp guy who can execute pitches better than most, but, boy, he put on a show. And, we've seen so many times this year where he'll get into a groove and then he'll have a couple starts that are a little shaky or whatever. And there was no evidence or any sort of indication that he was anything other than just completely locked in this one. And hats off to him. This is exactly what the Twins envisioned first when they traded for him, second when they gave him that big extension. And like you said, coming back for game 5 could be much rather come back for game 1 of the championship series, but I digress. I did wonder this, though. if you think that you are going to go back to him in game 5, do you back off him a little bit in this game? Now, I know you play for today. You win today because who knows? Maybe you win both at home and there is no game 5. But just something to think about if they should have throttled back tonight with the idea that they may need Pablo again for game 5. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I saw that thrown out there on Twitter. I'm trying to bring up his game logs really fast just to see how he's responded in games following a larger
Sure.
workload. You know, he has touched 100 pitches this year. It's not like he's been completely coddled. Um, I appreciate Rocco trusting his guns. Like he's
Mhm.
given Gray and Lopez maybe an inning more or a hitter more than we've seen him handle pitchers before in the regular season. And I appreciate that. I don't think it should adversely affect Lopez considering he is not on short rest, right? Because they get off day Monday, off day Thursday. So he's on
Mhm.
a normal cadence. I think if it was a short rest situation, you handle that differently.
Sure.
Because it wasn't, I think you let him go. I think that you roll with the hot hand, and I thought they would pull him after the first guy got on in the 7th. I think he got
Mhm.
an out. Then there was a bloop base hit. I thought they'd pull him then, gave him 2 more hitters, and he got them both out, went over 100 pitches in doing so. I'm saying no big deal. Would you agree with
Oh,
that, Brandon?
yeah, I think that's well stated. And then they also said too, and I have it up here. He only went over 100 pitches once in his last 13 starts, so he has not been taxed to the max. Before that, he had 100 pitches or more in 5 straight starts, but it was 104, 100, 100, 100, and 106. So again, everybody would kind of joke about ha ha ha, Rocco pulls his pitchers too early. One, the statistics absolutely do not back that up this year. But two, if the result of that is Pablo Lopez hitting 97 in the 7th inning of a playoff game, I'll take it every single
Mhm.
time. Also, too, don't sleep on the fact I know they have a day off, but they didn't even need 30 pitches from the bullpen to finish the game off. They are 100% ready to go in that bullpen. Day off, everybody's going to be just 100% fresh. It's such a luxury at this time of year. I really am. I'm enthused about this team coming back to Minnesota,
Mhm.
but really impressed with how they handled Houston in Houston.
Yeah, and honestly, gave themselves a lot of chances in that game 1 too. When you look at the way they put men on base, had opportunities, and they cashed those opportunities in tonight more so than they did early in that game on Saturday. Otherwise, this could be a 2-0 Twins lead. But sticking with the pitching theme, and then we'll move to Correa in the middle portion of this show. But Skull Jeff pointing out, love the way Duran pitched tonight as well. Yeah, Duran looks like he can handle this environment. There were moments, Brandon, when Duran worried me in the second half of the season. No command of the breaking ball, putting guys on base, just seemed very gettable. It's like the 101 wasn't good enough if you didn't have anything else to complement it with. 3 appearances now in the postseason, and he's been dialed. I mean, I think he let 2 guys on base, one on in game 1 in the Blue Jays
Mhm.
series, one in game 2, but he's had his pitches working. And when he has that breaking ball to supplement the fastball, just a different guy.
Yeah, I mean it's absolutely incredible what he's capable of when he's got everything going in the right direction. And we saw him scuffle a bit late. We saw Griffin Jacks have some ebbs and flows all season long, and he's been good too. Again, when people get all upset, oh, he's got this ERA, he's got that ERA, and you know me better than anybody.
Mhm.
Stats, I'm a stats guy, but you got to trust your guys, and when those are your guys, Rocco's not saying, "Oh man, he's got a 3.80 ERA and this other guy's got a 3.6, so it's his guy." Like you have your guys for roles and that sort of thing. You develop that trust, you build that trust, and you understand that every reliever is like one tweak away from 12 scoreless innings in a row. Well, every good reliever, I should say. So kudos to Rocco for sticking with those guys down the stretch, and then kudos to those guys for putting in the work and showing now in October that they're ready to go. And like you said, Duran just, especially after that finger thing, where he had a couple misfires coming out of there and then just dialed right back in.
Mhm.
Like, I think we saw times during the season, and I think that's why we were all so concerned, was that sometimes things could unravel just a little bit on him. Again, you have such superhuman expectations for a pitcher like this that if he gives up a run every 2 weeks you're like, oh no, the sky is falling. Well, it's just because he's so good. But to see him rein it back in that quickly when the trainer had come out, and now, you look at the body of work on the whole, yeah, he's a ready for prime time kind of player. And certainly nice to have one of those at the back end of your bullpen in October. No doubt about that.
We're going to talk about the Carlos Correa game. I also want to ask you about two interesting decisions in this game from Rocco regarding the bunt. And we'll talk about the series shifting back to Minnesota. But first, a word from FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook for a reason. There's a lot of ways to wager right now, Brandon. You can wager on college football, the NFL, baseball playoffs, NBA preseason as well. Many, many options. If you're new to FanDuel, you want to get in the action, you can bet $5 if you're a new customer and get $200 deposited into your account, guaranteed. Win or lose, that money is yours to wager. And you can wager it on, if it's the NFL, spreads, player props, futures. If it's the MLB, run lines, any of the prop bets regarding these postseason games. There's just dozens and dozens of ways every single game to get in the action and make every moment more at FanDuel, or the FanDuel Sportsbook app, which is super easy to use and extremely convenient. So check it out, FanDuel.com/locked-on. FanDuel is an official partner of the National Football League. All right, let's talk Correa. 3 out of 4 tonight with a walk. Could have been a couple walks. He put together a good at bat in the 9th inning too, and got frustrated when a pitch was called a strike late. But caps it off bottom of the 9th with, we were talking about it off air, just one of the sickest defensive plays that you can imagine. And he's doing this definitely not 100%. You can tell by the way he runs. He's not at full speed. He couldn't get from second to home on a 2-out single by Julian, but he produces in the postseason now. Is it fourth, Brandon, or third all time in RBIs? He passes Jeter and Big Papi tonight with 3 RBIs, 1 in the first, and then 2 more in the fourth to give the Twins a 5-0 lead. Clutch hitting for Correa, and so much more.
I believe he's fourth, and the list ahead of him was an interesting one because it was like Bernie Williams, David Justice was one of the guys, which the Braves played in the playoffs a lot when you and I were kids, so I guess that makes sense. But yeah, just Mr. I know there's a Mr. October. Maybe there can be a Mr. October 2. I don't know, but he's hitting over 500 in the postseason, and you and I are still going to probably talk about his defense when the dust settles on this postseason more than his offense. At least I think I will, because those plays have been so important in Twins wins. But it's hard not to be impressed with what he brings to the table, and it almost had to feel, pretty dang good to kind of have that heel moment, like a professional wrestler who turns bad guy in front of the home fans, his old home fans. So yeah, it's just incredible what he's done to galvanize this team, leadership wise, on field wise. And you mentioned too him not moving that fast. He doesn't move that fast to begin with. So when he's giving up more in addition, it's obvious that he's compromised. But players play, and he has brought his level of play to where we have all expected in October. And I think some of us may have been skeptical based on his regular season numbers, but the milkman has delivered and then some.
Yeah, Poltergoose says in the comments, honestly, I was annoyed with Correa in the regular season, but holy bleep. Yeah, this is a different guy. He's put his mark on every Twins win, right? In games 1 and 2 of the wild card series, mostly on the defensive side of things. And we're not talking, run-of-the-mill good defense like starting a 6-4-3 double play. No, we're talking about tracking down that roller behind Polanco and making the throw to home, the pickoff play, then the diving play tonight. These are top 0.1% of plays that you're going to see shortstops make. And he's doing that all while, you talked about the heel. Yeah, he's got a bad heel, and he's playing the heel. And he adds that offensive element tonight, too, with a couple swings that almost left the yard, a clutch 2-out, 2-run single. Gigantic at-bats from Correa, who seems to enjoy the spotlight, being in front of that at times hostile crowd in Houston. And now you go back to Target Field, where there's going to be so much juice, Brandon. And I've always said this. If you tell me you're guaranteed to win game 1 or game 2. You get one choice. I'm taking game 2 because
Yep.
I want wind in my sails heading home. I think there is the psychology of it, giving you an advantage, giving your fans a little more edge, thinking that you have the momentum going into that game 3.
No, I don't want to waylay your point on target field, but can you imagine a better player for
Yeah.
Royce Lewis to look up to than Carlos Correa? Like I think of Royce Lewis and how he already loves the moment, batting next to Carlos Correa, standing next to him when he's at third base.
Mm-hmm.
Incredible. Now, as far as target field is concerned, yeah, it's going to be rocking. I think they're going to take it to another level altogether because there was first it was the playoff win, monkey to throw off your back. Then it was the playoff series. Now it's just time to get greedy.
A road playoff win. They got that.
Yep,
checked
that's
off
huge.
the list tonight.
I read Do Young Park from MLB said that is just the second time ever the Astros have lost at home in the AL Division Series. Now, to be fair, they were a National League team for a long time, but that snapped a streak of 12 straight wins dating back to 2015 when I believe the Royals, on their way to the World Series, beat them.
Wow.
So they were 39-42 at home this year, so they were a little bit more beatable at home. But we also saw in 2020, we thought that they were beatable and they were coming to target field, and it didn't matter. So just good to see them take care of business. And now, yeah, it's time to get greedy at target field. It's time for the fans to make the team from the South, where I don't know what first pitch temperature was. They had the roof closed tonight anyway, but it's definitely going to be a different atmosphere. It's in the 50s this week in Minnesota. It's time to take back the home field advantage and do so with gusto. And I have faith that the Twins fans and those, what are they, red Homer Hankies? I mean,
yeah,
if you have a scarlet out, red out, whatever you want to call it, that's going to be intimidating. I believe in the Twins fans to bring it.
Tuesday, 56 and sunny. Seems like some comfortable October baseball.
It's going to be sunny, all right. It's going to be sunny gray.
Oh, we got some wordplay going on and getting punchy here on the Twins postcast. Couple other offensive angles. Nice to see the Twins knock around a lefty, including Kyle Farmer with a big swing, first ever postseason hit in the Crawford boxes to give the Twins a 3-0 lead. Farmer didn't finish this game, I don't think, Brandon. They went to the platoons when they started facing right-handed pitching, and those moves generally seem to work as well. Julian came up with a big pinch hit. But how about just the early offense from some of those right-handed hitters that have scuffled a bit against lefties?
Yeah, and that got better as the season went on, but I think that vindicates, easy for me to say, how they handled, Farmer and Solano all season long with, where they batted against lefties. And I think they even let Farmer take a plate appearance with were the bases loaded against a righty. They didn't pull him the immediate second. I think it was because the game was early enough that they wanted to maintain the defensive alignment. Now, they did end up sending Stevenson to left, bringing Castro in to play third. So they did move some things around, and Julian didn't play defense. But yeah, it's always good to see the button pushing work when, especially someone like me who believes in the data part of it. Like, it's not going to work every time. Obviously, that's not how baseball works. But to see, Farmer, a heck of a way to get into the hit column for the first time in your career. Solano did as well. I heard the radio guys say that they both came in on offers. So against the lefty, Framber Valdez, solid pitcher, but they just seem to. It reminded me a little bit of like when Gaussman's splitter, when the Twins didn't really respect it. They just kind of let it go. Yeah. I think the Twins did a pretty good job with Valdez's curveball. So when you're just kind of focusing on his sinker, it's a good pitch, but it's not good enough to last by itself. And I think that's how the Twins kind of got to him. Again, very good pitcher and lefty. So you would have expected to be a tough matchup for the Twins. And I think they showed up and showed out maybe a little better than I had anticipated, generally speaking.
I want to ask you about the two bunts that were called in this game as well. First, a word from Jace Medical. And with Jace Medical, you can give yourself peace of mind. You can empower yourself and your loved ones to have care at the ready because life is unexpected. With the Jace case, they provide 5 life-saving antibiotics for emergency use, which gives you that peace of mind. So you're not knocking on wood hoping that you have someone close by that can help you. You are in control. Jace Medical gives you the medication in hand, and it's very simple. They handle the online evaluation, licensed pharmacy medication delivery, and ongoing consultation, so you don't get caught unprepared, and you have the pros to help you compile your Jace case. So get $20 off these life-saving antibiotics today from Jace Medical by using the code LOCKEDON at checkout at jacemedical.com. Use my code LOCKEDON, Jace Medical, JASE Medical.com at checkout. All right, couple interesting bunt moments in this game. Let's talk about that, clean up a couple odds and ends, and then we'll call it a night. So, Brandon, the Jorge Polanco bunt, first and second, nobody out. And this was a funny moment in the broadcast booth on Fox because I think it was Przinsky who said, Rocco Baldelli doesn't want Polanco to bunt. He wants him to drive in 2 or 3 right here. And he lays it down and gets thrown out at first, advances the runners. Kind of sets up a sequence where then Lewis gets walked, loads the bases for Correa, who then delivers. And then later the booth was praising that move and saying, yeah, the bunt is really what set the table for the whole inning. So what's your read on that, Brandon? And we had someone in the comments, let me give them credit, Andrew, asking if he thought that was a Rocco move or a read by Jorge Polanco in the moment. But typically, modern analytics tell you not to bunt. Twins did, and it paid off in this one. What'd you think of that move?
For me, I would lean Rocco in this instance just because in the postseason, I think the gap from a 3-0 game to a 5-0 game is just so massive. You go from a save situation to a non-save situation. You really change the difference of what arms you're going to see out of this Astros bullpen. You're not going to see the Abreu's, the Presleys. It's more the Staniks and the Matons and that sort of thing. So I think it may have been a called play that you and I both agree we would have never seen in the regular season. And I also, too, wonder if they maybe weren't daring them to walk Lewis intentionally to get to Correa. I don't know. Again, I don't think that they would tempt fate like that, and I don't think the Astros would do that just to get to Correa. I think they know better than that. But I think it came down to the Twins deciding, the difference between 3-0 and 5-0 is big enough that we'll take the chance here. It's a fast surface. Do they ground into a double play? Possibly. The Astros have been pretty good at turning those between Pena, Altuve, really good infield, really good defensive infield. So I think they wanted to take that out of consideration. Also, to Correa looming with 30 of them this year in the regular season. So I think it was a situational thing. But if Polanco decided to do it, I would actually not be opposed to it. It's not a play I would have necessarily put on just because I'm in general, not a bunt fan. But when I look at it and kind of assess it after the fact, I'm like, the gap between a 3-run lead and a 5-run lead in October is massive enough that I can endorse it without too much trepidation.
Yeah, so easy for the Astros to put a couple guys on and get one big swing with that, that short left field foul pole.
Well, they did late with Alvarez. I mean, it wasn't a couple guys on, but it was one.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, that's a guy that is going to terrify me every time he steps to the plate in this series. He is, and I'm sure Royce Lewis is doing that to the Astros. Like, every lineup has a guy, and Alvarez is that guy. He, doubled the run production against Stewart all year in that one swing. 2 runs on one swing to give the Astros their only spark.
Like the present day Big Papi David Ortiz type, where there's nowhere you can pitch him. He's a left-handed monster at the plate. And the difference is that I think he handles lefties quite a bit better than Ortiz did. So he's going to be impossible for years to come. Luckily, the Twins will only have to see him a few times a year, and then hopefully, knock on wood, in the postseason.
The other bunt play, squeeze play with Lewis at third, gets thrown out, had to move around, shift around a lot, and actually looked pretty fleet in doing so. And then later he legged out, I think, getting from first to third.
Yep.
So the hamstring's getting tested and looking good, but obviously the squeeze play, that's the Twins saying, we believe in Lewis to kind of go all out here, which they had not endorsed in the Blue Jays series. So is this you think, good managing to say, all right, we think our guy is healthy, we're going to do this, or are they putting him at risk?
Well, well, even if they thought it was a good idea in the moment, I'm sure they were cringing that whole time he was in the rundown because
Mm-hmm.
stop, start, stop, start. I can't think of anything worse for a soft tissue than that. I mean, that's where soft tissue injuries come from. But I think it was also a safety squeeze too. So it was once contact is made, break home. And for whatever reason, he hesitated. And I think what happened was his baseball player instinct kicked into ball back to the pitcher, I freeze. And you've already committed to home, so you got to go. So I
Mm-hmm.
get what happened there. And he stayed in the rundown long enough. And AJ Przinsky mentioned this to get the runners to second and third.
Yep.
So at the end of the day, it's not the end of the world. Przinsky said it was a good play that way. It was a good play that started with a bad play, so it was the best of a bad situation. But I think what happened was, I think he just had a kick in like, oh, the pitcher got the ball way faster than I expected. Well, when you're coming home on a safety squeeze, there's no reverse. It's all the way home and see what happens. So I think that's what happened is he had a brief moment of doubt, and that was enough to leave him a dead duck between third and home.
And the Astros almost bungled the rundown. They left
They
home
did. They did.
unattended.
Bregman only tagged him, it looked like, just before the plate. And Lewis, as you can see, actually, he comes up and kind of does some
Mm-hmm.
like little safe gesture. Not enough that it actually looked like it was going to be something they'd review, but it was close. Yeah, they almost. And you always want, if you're going to botch a rundown, you want the guy to go back to the base he came from, not the next base. And they did the opposite of that.
Twins win it 6-2. Fun game, Brandon. And again, for those that joined late, relatively stress-free October
Yeah,
baseball.
yeah.
I mean, when you can really be on cruise control from the get-go, a 3-run lead in the second, a 6-run lead as late as the 8th, and then have your guy come in the 9th and shut it down 1, 2, 3. That is about as breezy as it gets. And for the Twins in October, that's a welcome sight. So it's Tuesday afternoon at Target Field, Wednesday, and I believe this is actually subject to change. I've heard through the grapevine that if the Rangers win in that Baltimore series and sweep it, that could move the Twins to primetime Wednesday. So keep a listen out for when that game's going to be. But Tuesday afternoon, 3 o'clock, I think that's dialed in at Target Field. So
we all deserve a little nighttime Max Kepler. I'll just say, if you guys know how to look up splits on Baseball Reference, look up Max Kepler's nighttime numbers. It's dangerous. So maybe they can get him going in prime time. That'd be kind of cool.
do you have any intel for us on the Game 3 starter for Houston? Any scouting reports?
Yes, I mean, it's Christian Javier.
Okay.
Is what it sounds like. Again, it's like he's cut from a similar mold as Fromber, just a really good pitcher that he's not like a standout, but at the same time, it's not like they're throwing the number 5 starter out there, see what happens. You're going to run into team's best guys. Be prepared for him to be very, very good, very, very prepared. But I also think too, it does point to Verlander coming back at some point on the back end of the series. Again, I think it was a foregone conclusion, the 5th game, but maybe even the 4th if the timing lines up, because they went to Hunter Brown in the bullpen, and so he was a candidate to make a start possibly. So with that said, yeah, it's going to get interesting. But Javier's good. You're not going to get anybody's leftovers here. He's a stud, and the Twins are going to have to bring the sticks. Luckily, he's right-handed. And not quite as good as the first 2 guys.
Thank you so much to everybody who tuned in. Love the interaction in the comment section. We're doing this after every Twins postseason game, and not just the Twins, but every Vikings game, every Gophers game, and eventually every Timberwolves game. A lot going on here at Locked On Sports Minnesota. Please subscribe to the channel. You can find the audio of this show on the Locked On Twins feed or the Locked On Sports Minnesota audio feeds, wherever you get your podcasts. He's Brandon Warne. He's the baseball guru. I'm Sam Ekstrom, teeing him up to sound smart. I'm at Sam Ekstrom on X. He's at Brandon _ Warne on X. Twins win 6-2. They split in Houston. Can't wait to talk to you all on Tuesday. See ya.